Okay, so as per this diagram, first thing first, we'll start working with certificate. So I go to my ADFS server, ADFS 01, and start the certificate console. Add the certificate console here for computer account, local computer finish. And the purpose of adding a certificate console is to basically generate a certificate request. So I go to create a custom request and proceed without enrollment policy and change it to legacy key. Make sure the formatted PKC is 10. Custom request details. Let's open the properties. Friendly name, I will give fs.itsense.net. It's the same name that I will give for my federation service. And that will be common name for my certificate as well. Description, I would say ADFS certificate. Under subject tab, I will start with common name. Value will be fs.itsense.net. And I would like to add country, AU for Australia in my case, and locality, Sydney, and organization, ITSense, and organization unit, IT, and state, New South Wales. Alright, under private key tab, for cryptographic service provider, I will uncheck Microsoft Strong Cryptographic Provider signature and check Microsoft RSA Secure Channel Cryptographic Provider encryption. And under key options, I will change the key length to 2048, make private key exportable, and allow it to be archived. Apply, OK, next. Finally, make sure file format is base64. I'll browse it, save it here. I will say certrack.rack, save, finished. So if I go to document, certrack.rack, and I say open with Notepad, this is the certificate request. So what I need to do next is to take the certificate request and send it to my certificate authority. It could be VeriSign or Symantec or Thwati or Komodo. So once I'll get that certificate, I will install the certificate on ADFS server. Then I will import that certificate and export it to Web Application Proxy server. and import into web application proxy server as well. So ADFS server will have certificate install, as well as web application proxy will have the same certificate. So this is it. So what I will do next, I will send this request to certificate authority, and I will continue once I'll get the certificate. So take it easy, and I will see you next. Okay, I got my certificate now from the certificate authority, and I see a bundle. All I have to do, I can right click the certificate and say install certificate to local machine and place certificate, all certificates in personal certificate store, next, finish, and that's it. The certificate is installed. And just to see, I'll be able to see the certificate right here. Okay, now the next thing I'll do is we will export this certificate and import it to web application proxy server, and that's the next video. Okay, now I will export the certificate which I have installed in the previous video. Just refresh a little bit. Yeah, this is the certificate, and it has its own related CS certificates which are all related to it. I will export this so that we can import it to web application proxy. I will say yes, export private keys, include all certificate, export all properties, next. It's better to have it password protected. Type the password. Next, file name. Let's save it. Make sure it's a PFX. So what should I call it? Maybe ADFS cert.pfx. And finish. Export successful. So I have exported it, and the next thing I need to do is to copy this file to web application proxy server, which is on my DMZ network. And after that, all you need to do is import the certificate into web application proxy personal certificate store. Once it's done, there are a few other things we need to do, and after that we'll be all ready to do what we need to do, which is configuring ADFS. So see you in next video. Okay, I'm on my web application proxy server, and I have copied this certificate package. And what I have to do, right click, install PFX. Certificate import wizard will open local machine, and of course next, it was password protected, so I would have the right password, and make the keys exportable. Next, place all certificates in personal certificate store. Next, finish, and import successful. Just to check, we go and MMC again, and add remove snapping, choose certificates and computer account, local computer, okay, personal certificate, and here we go. So certificate is now installed along with its root CA certificates, like whatever certificates are included in a path. They are all installed on ADFS server as well as on web application proxy server. So certificate wise, we are okay. Now, one thing we need to do while we are on web application proxy server, as you know, that it's in a different network, DMZ network to be precise, and it's not a part of a domain, it's a part of work group. So I want my web application proxy server to resolve names for my ADFS server and to resolve name for my ADFS server for the common name which is given to that certificate, which is fs.itsense.net. So I need to ensure that it can resolve fs.itsense.net to an internal IP address, which will be the IP address of ADFS01 server, as well as it can resolve ADFS01.itsense.net, which will, of course, will be resolving also to this IP address. And other things are optional. If I want AD Connect server to be resolved, I can add it, but it's not a must. So let's do this. So while I'm on WAP01, our web application proxy server, I will go right here and command prompt with administrator, notepad, open, and Windows System 32, drivers, etc, and choose the host file, right? And here 192.168.1.202 ADFS01.itsense.net and 192.168.1.202, same IP address will be fs.itsense.net. Just to confirm, yeah, it's 202. Okay. If I want, although not required, but let's resolve everything, doesn't matter. So 201, I can say adconnect.itsense.net and 192.168.1.200 dc.itsense.net. These two entries are not required actually. These two are the main entries which I need. Anyway, I'm just resolving all the servers. Okay, and let's see if I say ping adfs01.itsense.net. Yes, so ping fs.itsense.net. Perfect. Okay, now as I said that this web application proxy is not in domain, then how my domain computers will resolve its IP address? Its IP address is 192.168.2.203, right? how my domain computer will resolve this IP. So for that, what we can do, go to our domain controller /DNS and add a static record. Oh, come on. Sorry about that. We can go to DNS. Forward lookup zone itsense.net, and here we can add a new host record called web01, and IP address is 192.168.2.204. Here you go. So this will take care of name resolution of web01. Okay, so that's how we fix the name resolution between workgroup computer and, which is the web application proxy, and domain members. So in next video we will proceed further and start using ADFS wizard, also AD connect wizard, to modify a few settings. So I will see you in that video. A quick correction before we proceed further. I think there was a typo. I typed 192.168.2.204 as a web01, but actually it's 192.168.2.203. So I have corrected it. Now it's the right record. Resolving to the right IP address. One more thing we need to consider, that we need to enable PowerShell remote execution on web application proxy server. As we know that this server is not in domain, it's a work group, so we have to run some special commandlet. So any machine which is a part of work group, we can use this commandlet called sorry about that. Enable PS remoting /force what's happening. Okay, anyway, I'll try to enable PS. Come on. Force skip network profile check. So doesn't matter it's a domain profile or public network profile or private network profile, it's gonna skip this check. So that we can remotely execute PowerShell on it. And another command we need to add is we need to allow these hosts to be in a trusted. Oh man, sorry about that. So I will do some sort of if you can note it down, which is set item wsman localhost client trusted host and these two values. So it will add this computer into trusted host. So set item, what was that? wsman column wsman localhost, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, sorry, single localhost and client trusted hosts. Client trusted hosts. Hosts, yeah. Minus value. It's the IP address of, yeah, 192.168.1.202, the most important one, ADFS server IP address. This command modifies the trusted host list for Windows Remote Management Client. Yes, please. And I will also add IP address of AD Connect server. Yes, please. Done. So basically, we are allowing remote execution of PowerShell and allowing from these two hosts. That's why we are adding these two hosts into trusted host list. Okay. So this is another part of preparation that you need to do before running the ADFS wizard to change authentication from password synchronization to ADFS federation. Okay, so now it's time to run AAD Connect Wizard once again and change the authentication from password synchronization and seamless SSO to AD Federation type authentication or Active Directory Federation Services authentication, which is the real single sign-on experience. Currently, I have my users getting synced from my local Active Directory to Office 365 and license have been assigned to them. They have mailboxes in Exchange Online and they are using other Office 365 services as well. And however, currently we are using, password synchronization option, which takes 30 minutes for changes to replicate through or sync through to Office 365, and we want to change it to Active Directory Federation services. We want authentication to take place against our own Active Directory rather than passwords getting synced to Azure AD. And for this purpose, few things needs to be done as we have ADFS server, which we require web application proxy. Make sure your firewall allow external traffic over HTTPS 443 to your web application proxy, which will typically be residing on DMZ network, and also Your web application proxy needs a communication between ADFS server or two ADF server over TCP port 443, which is HTTPS traffic. In case if you are using client-based, certificate-based client-server authentication, then TCP port 49443 is also required to be open. So these are the few things. Usually, this you need to ensure that whoever is responsible for managing the firewall have created appropriate rules to allow HTTPS traffic between from external to DMZ and from internal to DMZ and vice versa, right? Especially between ADFS server and web application proxy. So, yep. And this is my Azure AD. As you can see, I have this user synced from Windows Server AD. Here I have users licensed, which I can show you right here. So, a couple of users with Azure Active Directory, and the rest are syncing from on-prem. As you can see, sources Windows Server AD. So let's start configuring ADFS server wizard. So for this reason, to configure ADFS, we need to log into our AD Connect server first, because we will be running this setup once again of AD Connect. So I right click AD Connect shortcut, run as administrator. Okay, configure, and I will go straight to change user sign in. It's asking for the global admin credentials of my Office 365 subscription or Azure AD. Yep. So next. And once it's verified that this user account is a member of, it has a global administrator role, and it's a part of, it's an online account, it's a part of Azure AD, and it's a global administrator, it will give me this screen. And here I can change from password hash synchronization to federation with ADFS. And again, it says that, okay, if you want to use ADFS, make sure you have ADFS server, at least one server running 2012 or R2 or higher, or on web application proxy 2012 R2 or higher, and SSL certificate. Next, AD Connect required domain administrator, which will be deployed. So yes, I will say itsense.net/administrator. And we will be configuring new ADFS file, certificate file. I think, oh, I didn't copy it. Just give me a second. I will copy it and I will get back to you. Okay, so I have copied the PFX file. ADFS cert, password, Subject name is fs.itsense.net, and that becomes our federation service name, which is https fs.itsense.net. Here I need to specify the server where to install ADFS, so it will be adfs01.itsense.net. It's verifying the connectivity. Okay, correct. The server can be resolved, and the reason is I have installed the role. So let's go down real quick and let's go to typical add roles and features. Next, next, next. Active Directory Federation Service. Next, next, next. Restart if it's required. Install. And while we are doing it here, let's go to Web Application Proxy, because we will be facing the same issue. So add roles and features. Next, 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 and remote access. Next, next, next. Web Application Proxy, and next. Restart if requires, and install. Perfect. So we started. Installation succeeded. We don't need to configure anything. So on ADFS server, it gave me a message that installation of service ADFS role succeeded, but now it wants me to configure, but I don't want to. I will go here and say add. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, I totally misjudged that. It's saying it cannot resolve the name fs.itsense.net, which is absolutely fine. What we need to do, we need to go to Active Directory, DNS. I missed that part. And that's the beauty of doing this without any planning. So over here, I'm gonna do one more host record called FS, and its IP address will be exactly the same like my ADFS server. Add host, done, and let's go back to AD Connect and yep. Let's see. WAP01.itsense.net. It will ask me, of course, or more choices. So I will say administrator. Sorry. So more choices. WAP01. Okay, it's trying enabling. Last I think we did enable. Which we just make sure. Yeah, we did allow about PS remoting, and we did enable PS remoting. Okay, I was able to solve this problem, and the issue was I forgot to run the trusted host command on AD Connect as well as on ADFS server, which includes name of WAP01. So after I doing that and enabling the PS remoting on AD Connect and adding WAP01.itsense.net as trusted host, I was able to establish a connection to that. You don't need to enable PS remoting on other I did not enable PS remoting on ADFS. I just add WAP01 as trusted host on both of them. Enable PS remoting on AD Connect because that's the server we are connecting, from which we are connecting to WAP01, and I was able to do that. So even if I remove and show you once again WAP01.itsense.net, here we go. So next, for ADFS, I will use the group managed service account and provide administrative credentials, which needs to be an enterprise admin. That will create a group managed service account to manage Active Directory Federation services. Select the domain to federate, itsense.net, and it says itsense.net domain is managed and will be converted to a federated domain. User logins will be disrupted during this process. It's a good point to make sure if you need to change this from password hash synchronization to Active Directory Federation services based sign on. You do it after hours or ask for an outage. And here we go. It's going to configure Federation services on one server, configure the web application proxy on one, Azure AD Trust for ITSense, and disable single sign-on and start the synchronization process. Yes, please do. And now it's doing its work. Once again, I was unable to add WAP01 in the wizard because I did not add this Web01 as trusted host on AD Connect server. We did that. We did add AD Connect and ADFS server as a trusted host on WAP01 and enable PS remoting on WAP01, but we did not enable PS remoting on AD Connect server, as well as we did not add WAP01 as a trusted host on AD Connect server. So once I did that, and I did add WAP01 as a trusted host on ADFS as well, it was fine. Then went ahead. So while it's doing all this configuration, I will pause this video and I will be back when it's all done. Okay, configuration complete, and if you want we can verify. So sign-in method has been changed, but password synchronization is still enabled. Run the custom synchronization option task to disable password hash synchronization. Okay, single sign-on is now disabled, right? And that's what we wanted. We wanted to change from single sign-on or seamless single sign-on experience to Federation Services sign-on, right? So next, let's see. All right. So it's able to resolve and see internal DNS. It's able to resolve to this, which is my ADFS01 server. And on externally, it was able to resolve to this IP. So on your external DNS, which is hosted on internet, you will create a record called fs.itsense.net, same name. So keep this in mind for Active Directory Federation services. Name needs to be same. So in the same name needs to be resolved, like fs.itsense.net, for example. It needs to be resolved in internal DNS as well as an external DNS. Exit, and we are done. So how do we test it? But before that, I'll run the AD Connect setup again and customize synchronization option and type Azure AD Global Administrator credentials. Currently it's syncing the corporate OU, which is fine for me. I just don't want password hash synchronization. I don't want to sync password now. You can keep it enabled if you like, but the idea here is if you have federation services, you will always get authenticated against them. You won't be getting authenticated against Azure Active Directory anymore, because it converts your Azure Active Directory domain to federated domain. It means your local, the request authentication request will redirect it to your local ADFS server, and your ADFS server will authenticate your credential against your local domain controller. And once it's verified, it will generate a token and pass it to Azure AD, and that will let you authenticate, that user authenticate, and that user will be able to access Office 365 services. All right. So I think I have one user. So this is the process basically for configuring ADFS, which has been quite successful until now. So in the next video, we will test that how ADFS works from user perspective.